Alrighty, good afternoon, everyone. I'm Danielle Shank, filling in for Bill Rentschler today on the Crime Stopper segment that you guys normally do on Wednesdays. Today, we're joined by Jared Minary with the Lincoln Police Department.
It's nice to have a fresh face with me.
Yeah.
You know, I got tired of staring at Bill, so thanks for showing up.
I definitely don't blame you. No, I'm just kidding. But I was going to say, long time no see. We just had you here last week.
Yep.
For some crimes, and now we got a fresh batch.
We got two new ones today we want to talk about. So definitely some cases we were hoping to get some tips on. I think that one of them is kind of a definite kind of dead end for us unless we get a good tip just because of how covered this person is. The other one, I think we should be able to get a good tip on this one. So, yeah.
Alrighty, should we start with the hard one first?
Let's dive in.
All
right. So basically, this first one we have, this is a shoplift that starts at Super Saver at 48th and O Street. This is just back on Wednesday, October 16th. Basically, this guy comes in. He's carrying this suitcase with him as he comes in, and it just so happens that no one's behind the customer service counter. So he walks behind the customer service counter and just starts loading things into this suitcase. I mean, it's quite an interesting case in that sense. Like, I've never seen anybody load a suitcase in a grocery store before. But he steals a bunch of like Crown Royal, Barton's vodka bottles of alcohol, and then really loads up on the cigarettes there. He had so many he couldn't even fit them in all in that suitcase. That's why he's carrying 4 of them in his arms. And it's not even one brand. It is like every brand they had available, at least a little segment from each. So I don't know if he's going to try to sell all this stuff on the street or if he's just got a very variety for his habit. I don't know.
Yeah. Trying to test out some new cigarettes.
Exactly.
You know,
it's a small sampling of everything. So we definitely, because he's so covered when he did this, we don't have a great tip on who he is. So we're really hoping somebody recognizes his stature, maybe his hat or his clothing, something that just might give us a good direction to go on this guy. Maybe they know he's selling these cigarettes somewhere or the alcohol involved in this. We're just really looking for anything on this one. It's going to be a dead end if we don't get something good for a tip.
Yeah, and this picture is maybe a little bit harder to see, at least his face, than this other one. This one's kind of maybe a little bit better lit, but red hat. Is that like some sort of shield that we're seeing?
It's some kind of face covering. Can't really say what it is, but definitely something he's got over it.
Interesting. Yeah. And then what kind of area was he last seen?
So when he runs out of the store, he basically kind of heads north and east of there and is last seen at the Tanglewood Apartments at 44th and R Street. Officers kind of went over to that area. Somebody had seen this guy moving around and directed them over to some of the like a tree area kind of nearby there, but officers weren't able to find him in the end. Don't know if he got out of there somehow or he was hunkered down enough that no one could find him, but eventually they gave up the search for him, and now we're on to this kind of search.
Yeah.
So, yeah.
And this is fresh. This happened just last week.
Yep, on October 16th, so very quickly, or very recently, shall I say. Yes.
Yeah, and a suitcase, that's a new one.
I find it interesting he got in with that suitcase and then got behind customer service. That's pretty amazing that he was able to manage to get there. A lot of times you walk into a store like that, they're going to stop you with a suitcase. So he must have just found all those right opportunities to get in the door, get back behind customer service when no one was there. So I'm thinking he's probably been there a few times.
Yeah.
There's a good possibility he kind of knows the layout, maybe knows what time to show up. This is, of course, about 1 o'clock in the morning on the 16th. So maybe he hangs out there. Maybe you know him because he hangs out there. Maybe he's a frequent in the store, or maybe you work there and you've seen him a lot. Just, again, anything will help us at this point.
Yeah, definitely. Yeah, I was going to say, it seems like he might have been there a few times, but he didn't seem to have a weapon, anything like that.
No threats made, no weapons that we know of. He just basically was in and out and ran off. So pretty quick.
Alrighty. Well, if you have any information on this case, what can people do?
Obviously, you can call Crime Stoppers. That number is 475-3600. You can, of course, go online to LincolnCrimeStoppers.com. You can see all those cases posted there. And we also have that P3 app that you can download to your phone, which is one of my favorites just because if we have follow-up questions, we can reach out to you and you still can be completely anonymous. I know it sounds kind of like magic, and it kind of is, but we don't know who you are even if we are messaging you in that app. So I do recommend that app if you are able to do it and willing to do it. That may get us a little bit farther on some of these cases because we can just ask that right question that maybe we think you might know it, and you might know it, and if we don't ask it, we won't ever get that possibility. Of course, if you don't need a reward or you don't want to remain anonymous and you just want to give us that information, you can always call the police department as well at that 441-6000 and talk to our dispatchers to get into us.
Yeah, it'd be a nice just out of the goodness of your heart,
Yep.
knowing it's the right thing to do.
We get a lot of those
Contact.
too. So
Yeah.
we have a very low pickup rate in Lincoln, Nebraska for all of our crimes that we have. It's like under 3%.
Wow. Alrighty, and so what is the second case that we're looking at here today?
So the second case is a little bit more interesting in the sense that this is an arson. It's probably the longest title I've ever seen on our Crime Stoppers website, and I'm not even sure I could do it justice if I tried to read it. So you're probably just going to either have to go there, or maybe you can translate it, but I'm not going to read it. But this happened back on October 20th, so just this last Sunday at about 3 o'clock in the afternoon. This female is walking around in the backyard of somebody's house, and you can see her walking here. She's just kind of hanging out in the backyard, and she's flipping a mattress around. We end up finding some human fecal matter in the area and a couple of vapes that were left behind. We don't know what she's doing, why she's there, why she lights it on fire. We don't know if there's any relation to the people in the house that she has is upset with them. It's literally just an open, we don't know in this case. And obviously it leads to a pretty good sized fire. Luckily, some of the neighbors saw the smoke. They banded together, and they started getting out hoses and buckets and got it all put out before it got into anything really serious, like a residence or the garage there. You can see just some damage to the grass, the mattress, and maybe a few little items around it. Really lucked out in that case because it took off fairly quickly with the dry grass we have right now. So
yeah, I was going to say it really started to smoke here, as you can see there. Now, you mentioned there's some nearby cameras that might have gotten a pretty decent look at her.
Yep. So basically what you're looking at here is she's walking away. This is from the victim's residence. They actually had a camera of her kind of walking out of the house, out of the property, should I say, and just walking by. Maybe she does this on a regular basis. Maybe this is her route to from someplace. Somebody might recognize her. Really just like to catch up with her and try to figure out why this happened and what was going on. Is this a criminal act? Does this person need some help of some sort? It really could be any of those directions. So
yeah, because not the kind of evidence you really want to find at a crime scene.
It's definitely up there in some of the things you don't hear very often.
For sure. So I guess in this picture, just a few pictures of her. She's got a few bags potentially, maybe a cooler on her back.
Not too sure. Some kind of backpack. It's like a little handbag. It could be a cooler. Again, not really sure what she's doing or where she's heading. So
yeah, and this one also happened pretty recently.
Yep, that was just back on this last Sunday.
Alrighty.
So about 3 o'clock in the afternoon. So I don't know. Maybe this is her normal Sunday walk. Maybe somebody would recognize her from that.
Yeah, and you said, I mean, people are home 3 o'clock on a Sunday, so hopefully some neighbors.
Yeah,
spotted
maybe you know
her.
where she came from, where she lives, where she was going. Maybe you saw her wandering by another camera that we haven't found yet, and we can get a better image of her. Or if you want to check your cameras, if you do live in that area, maybe you have a better image of her. That would be nice to have.
Right. And again, here are the tips on how to reach your office.
Yep.
You know, phone call, email, all of the possibilities to either remain anonymous or not.
Yep.
And get a reward.
Yeah, and the nice thing about that, you being anonymous, a lot of people don't really know what anonymous necessarily always means, but it basically just means we're going to make sure that we don't have your identity going into any reports. You're not going to show up in court, any of that kind of stuff. You will be anonymous. We won't know who you are. Everybody involved in the case from start to finish won't know who you are. When you pick up your reward, we won't know who you are. You're given a number, and you are identified through that number, and you'll use it one time most likely, and then that'll be it. We won't be able to track you. So a lot of people just want to get us that information, and they don't want maybe retaliation, or they're in a bad situation, sometimes even a bad relationship, and they want to tip on something. And so this gives them that avenue to get that information to us to do the right thing. And a lot of those people don't ever pick up that money for a reward. They're just doing it because it's the right thing to do.
Right. And so even if you submit a tip anonymously, you're still eligible for that reward. And how much cashola we kind of talking about?
Any of these cases, basically the top range for our Crime Stopper program right now is $1,000. We'd like to see it higher someday. That's really just going to depend on how much donations we get from our local community. So in these kind of cases, you're talking misdemeanor, maybe felony cases. So, I mean, it could be $100, $200, just depending. As you get up to those bigger numbers, that's when you start seeing the $1,000 for like a homicide case. And obviously, we want to get those solved. And hopefully, if that money helps get a little tip, that's great. But as I said, our pickup rate in Nebraska is really pretty low. Like a 3% pickup rate is really low. even nationwide. And so most of the people in Nebraska that are tipping for our program, they're not doing it for the money. They're doing it because it's the right thing to do, and they don't even want a part of the money. They just want to let us know what they know and help us solve that case. So
Yeah. And so for viewers who might not know, what are you talking about when you say pickup rate?
So basically that means like how many people will give us a tip versus how many people will collect the money, the pickup.
Oh, okay.
So when you are given a reward, we have a whole system on how you can pick that money up, and you will basically be given your number. You'll go to a bank. You'll be allowed to pick up that reward with your number at the bank. The bank doesn't know who you are. We don't know who you are. It's all kept anonymous, and it's a really good program in the sense that I've even heard from our Crime Stoppers USA. At one time, we had somebody that pulled up in a drive-through of a bank, gave their tip ID number, got the reward, and the person they tipped on was in the passenger seat and never knew. So we do everything we can to keep you as anonymous as possible, and that way it can never be found out, and you can still collect that reward if you want. I would not recommend picking it up with the person you're tipping on, but that's the dedication of everybody involved in this, to try to keep you anonymous when you're giving information to the police. Yeah,
and now this is just one of two cases of quite a few that you guys have on your Crime Stoppers website. If I can possibly... There we go. I'm new to these buttons a little bit.
You're doing far better than I would have. So
how many times you can do run-throughs, and then there you go. But here's your Crime Stoppers website. Now you guys have the two cases that we talked about today available to look at, a few, and some new ones.
Yep, we've posted a few today. Just even today, they've posted new ones. We're really posting. There's the really long title right there.
Yeah.
We've posted at least a couple a day usually, and some days we do more than that. There's a few days we don't get anything, but there's always new content on there. So we get a lot of people that'll check it. You can always see on our stats, people check it first thing when they get to work, and then on like Wednesdays we get a big peak because we talk about it on the news a lot. We see some people at lunchtime. So this is kind of their like every day they check it. It's just kind of fun to see, and we get a lot of comments about the titles of our posts and how funny they are. And
because they are from the people who the crimes, or who's making these titles?
We do it in our unit.
Okay.
So when we pull these videos, we try to have something that's kind of engaging in one way or another to bring you in to read the post. So if it's something that will make you laugh, I think it's good to bring you in and actually get you to read the rest of that post.
Yeah. Alrighty. Well, is there anything else that you want the fine citizens of Lincoln to know about?
That's what we got today. Obviously, thank you for all the tips you have provided to us. So they do make a difference.
All right. Thanks so much for joining us here today, Jared.
Thank you.
Alrighty. For more news and updates, you can visit our website and follow us on all our social platforms. From our newsroom to wherever you are. See you on the next stream.